Ketuvim is the third and final section of the Tanakh, after Torah and Nevi'im. In English translations of the Hebrew Bible, this section is usually entitled Writings. The Ketuvim are believed to have been written under divine inspiration, but with one level less authority than that of prophecy. Found among the writings within the Hebrew Scriptures, I and II Chronicles form one book, along with Ezra and Nehemiah, which form a single unit entitled Ezra and Nehemiah. Collectively, 11 books are included in the Ketuvim. Groups of books. The poetic books, in Masoretic manuscripts, Psalms, Proverbs and Job are presented in a special two-column form emphasizing the parallel sticks in the verses, which are a function of the poetry. Collectively, these three books are known as Sifrei Emet. These three books are also the only ones in the Hebrew Bible with a special system of cantillation notes that are designed to emphasize parallel sticks within verses. However, the beginning and end of the book of Job are in the normal prose system. The 5 scrolls, the 5 relatively short books of Song of Songs, Book of Ruth, the Book of Lamentations, Ecclesiastes and Book of Esther, collectively known as the Hamesh Megillot. These are the latest books collected and designated as authoritative in the Jewish canon. These scrolls are traditionally read over the course of the year in many Jewish communities. The list below presents them in the order they are read in the synagogue on holidays, beginning with the Song of Solomon on Passover. Other books, besides the 3 poetic books and the 5 scrolls, the remaining books in Ketuvim are Daniel, Ezra, Nehemiah and Chronicles. Although there is no formal grouping for these books in the Jewish tradition, they nevertheless share a number of distinguishing characteristics. The Talmudic tradition ascribes late authorship to all of them. 2 of them are the only books in Tanakh with significant portions in Aramaic. These 2 also describe relatively late events. Order of the books. The following list presents the books of Ketuvim in the order they appear in most printed editions. It also divides them into 3 subgroups based on the distinctiveness of Sifrei Emet and Hamesh Megillot. The 3 poetic books Tehillim, Mishlei, Iyyobh. The 5 Megillot Shir Hashigerim, Ruth, Akar, Koheleth, Esther. Other books Daniel, Ezra, Divrei HaYamim. The Jewish textual tradition never finalized the order of the books in Ketuvim. The Babylonian Talmud gives their order as Ruth, Psalms, Job, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Song of Solomon, Lamentations of Jeremiah, Daniel, Scroll of Esther, Ezra, Chronicles. In Tiberian's Masoretic codices, including the Aleppo Codex and the Leningrad Codex, and often in Old Spanish manuscripts as well, the order is Chronicles, Psalms, Job, Proverbs, Ruth, Song of Solomon, Ecclesiastes, Lamentations of Jeremiah, Esther, Daniel, Ezra. Canonization. The Ketuvim is the last of the 3 portions of the Tanakh to have been accepted as biblical canon. It is said that the people of Israel were adding what would become the Ketuvim to the Holy Literature shortly after the canonization of the prophets. There is no scholarly consensus as to when the Hebrew Bible canon was fixed. Some scholars argue that it was fixed by the Hasmonean dynasty, while others argue it was not fixed until the 2nd century CE or even later. While the Torah may have been considered canon by Israel as early as the 5th century BCE and the former and latter prophets were canonized by the 2nd century BCE, Michael Coogan says that the Ketuvim was not a fixed canon until the 2nd century CE. According to T. Henshaw, as early as 132 BCE, some references suggesting that the Ketuvim was starting to take shape, though it lacked a formal title. Jacob Neusner says something different. He argues that the notion of a biblical canon was not prominent in 2nd century Rabbinic Judaism or even later. Against Appian, the writing of Josephus in 95 CE treated the text of the Hebrew Bible as a closed canon to which no one has ventured either to add, or to remove, or to alter a syllable. Michael Barber, however, avers that Josephus's canon is not identical to that of the modern Hebrew Bible. For a long time following this date, the divine inspiration of Esther, the Song of Songs, and Ecclesiastes was often under scrutiny. In the 20th century, many scholars seem to believe that the limits of the Ketuvim as canonized scripture were determined by the Council of Jamnia, but the theory of the Council of Jamnia is largely discredited today. Liturgical use. There is no formal system of synagogal reading of Ketuvim equivalent to the Torah portion and Haftarah. It is thought that there was once a cycle for reading the Psalms, parallel to the triennial cycle for Torah reading, as the number of Psalms is similar to the number of Torah portions in the cycle, and remnants of this tradition exist in Italy. All Jewish liturgies contain copious extracts from the Psalms, but these are normally sung to a regular recitative or rhythmic tune rather than reader-chanted. Some communities also have a custom of reading Proverbs in the weeks following Pesach, and Job on the 9th of Ab. The 5 Megalot are read on the festivals, as mentioned above. Though Sephardim have no custom of public reading of Song of Songs on Passover or Ecclesiastes on Sukkot, there are traces of an early custom of reading a Haftarah from Ketuvim on Shabbat afternoons, but this does not survive in any community. Some Reform communities that operate a triennial cycle choose Haftarah and Shabbat morning from Ketuvim as well as Nevi'im. Extra-liturgical public reading in some Near and Middle Eastern Jewish traditions. The whole of Ketuvim is read each year on a weekly rota, usually on Shabbat afternoons. These reading sessions are not considered to be synagogue services, and often took place in the synagogue courtyard. Cantillation. Medieval sources speak of 3 cantillation melodies for Torah, Nevi'im and Ketuvim respectively. Today the position is more complicated. Oriental Sephardic communities preserve cantillation systems for the 3 poetic books, namely Psalms, Proverbs and the main part of Job. No such systems exist in the Ashkenazi, Spanish and Portuguese traditions. However, the Ashkenazi yeshiva known as Adorei Eliyahu in the Old City of Jerusalem uses an adaptation of the Syrian cantillation melody for these books, and this is becoming more popular among other Ashkenazim as well. In all communities there are special cantillation melodies for Lamentations and Esther, and in some communities for the Song of Songs. Otherwise, the melody for the Book of Ruth is considered the default melody for books of the Ketuvim not otherwise provided for. The prose passages at the beginning and end of the Book of Job, as read on Tisha B'Av, may be read either to the tune of Ruth or to one resembling that for the Song of Songs. The Targum to Ketuvim. Western Targumim exist on Sifrei Emet, on the 5 Megalot and on Chronicles, i.e. on all the books of Ketuvim besides Daniel and Ezra. There are several complementary Targumim to Esther. There is, however, no official Eastern Targum to Ketuvim, equivalent to Targum Onkelos on the Torah and Targum Jonathan on Nevi'im. In fact, the Babylonian Talmud explicitly notes the lack of a Targum to Ketuvim, explaining that Jonathan ben Uziel was divinely prevented from completing his translation of the Bible. A more prosaic explanation may consist in the lack of regular formal readings of Ketuvim in the synagogue, making it unnecessary to have an official system for line-by-line translation.